A vulnerability is a weakness that allows the bad people to exploit you if given the opportunity. That's a vulnerability. The attack is the exploitation of that vulnerability. So mitigating the vulnerability is mitigating the attack at the same time in theory. Now the concept is, and the way most people approach this issue, is that they say, oh, the user clicked on a link and that link destroyed our network. So the solution should be, let's make the user more aware not to click on that link. And I look at that like, you are a fool. Because let's face it, what should happen is, in the first place, and I'm using phishing just as the example in this case, in order for a user to click on a phishing message, the phishing message had to get to a user. The organization provided that infrastructure for that message to be in the user's inbox, as an example. And what happened is, somehow many layers of technology failed for that message to get into the inbox. So if anti-malware, anti-phishing failed on the corporate email server, it failed on the email clients itself, on the PCs that the user uses, then the system can tell the user, hey, you're not allowed, I know you want to click on that link, but that link does not go where you think it does. We're not going to allow you to click on the link. But let's say somehow the user does. Let's say they check it on their mobile device. Then what happens is the system should say, hey, if the user clicks on the link, it attempts to download malware. It's like, wait a second, you are not permitted to download malware as an average user. You don't have administrator privileges, or they shouldn't have administrator privileges on their personal devices. But let's say even that fails, and they do. Then the system should say, you know what? We know a user is going to click on a link and potentially start initiating damage. So what we're going to do is we're going to plan ahead, and we're going to go ahead and put layers of technology around it and say, we're not going to allow the system to download malware. We're not going to allow the system to run malware. Then even if it does, the system as the big system should say, okay, that system has been compromised. We're going to isolate that system because it's exhibiting unusual behavior. So we're going to isolate it, and we're going to alert the security team, the administrator team, that that system's been compromised. And then we're going to go in and mitigate that system. That obviously involves process. It involves technology, along with awareness to tell the user not to click on the message. Because while I'm not saying that awareness has no purpose, because awareness is a tool of risk mitigation, and it can be a valuable tool, because statistics are eventually, no matter how great your awareness program is, 5% of people will click on that message. However, that's much better than having 20% or 50% of people clicking on the message. Likewise, I know anti-malware software is not going to be perfect. However, if it filters out 99.9% of the attacks, it's still mitigating the risk before it gets to the user. Then when it gets to the user, if I can take that little bit and get it down by 95%, it mitigates my risk that much more. If I then have technology afterwards that says, hey, I expect the user to make a mistake because the technology is going to fail, then the user will eventually fail. So I'm going to have this technology that mitigates the initiation of that attack as well, such as additional anti-malware, behavioral analytics, misuse and abuse detection, and so on. So it should all work in concert. But right now, the problem is that when people look at somebody clicked on a phishing message and ruined the network, they think the only solution is awareness. That's where people are failing. That's where organizations are failing.